How's it going, everyone? We're going to be going over a topic today that I don't see discussed a whole bunch outside of like blowout card forums and just a few individuals, but that's 90s fake cards. And so if you look here, we're over on blowout card forums. We're on the rolling thread for 90s fakes and backdoor cards. This is in the basketball section specifically. I believe there's one of these in like the baseball and other sections as well. But this is basically just a thread where people can post auctions that they've found, or maybe cards that they're looking to purchase, and they're questioning the authenticity of these cards. Roger Maris here probably being the one that you want to have answer your question. If he says it's fake, I would undoubtedly agree with him because he owns a lot of these cards and he's done a lot of this research over the years. So some of these auctions here that someone posted, you can see that he has pointed out that they are a counterfeit. If we scroll down a little bit, we'll find a bunch of the cards. Dragon Wagon here, he posts to his altered card database that he keeps. Now we can look at a couple of the cards here. This one actually being a graded copy of the 98 Skybox Premium Star Rubies of Tim Duncan. Kind of scary, right? Because it's actually graded. But then you have a lot of these raw 97, 98 Star Rubies cards right here that were also pointed out as fake. And a card I want to focus specifically on here is this 97-98 Skybox Premium Star Rubies of Karl Malone. We're going to jump over to the auction here, which was actually ended by Probstein. So somebody told them that this card was fake. They pulled it. Now, a lot of times they'll let these sellers know that they're fake and nothing is ever done. That's why I think it's good that you do your research first, because we can't always trust that they'll recognize that it's fake or determine that it's fake and pull it. We're going to be looking at card number 33 out of 50. We're going to be taking a little deeper dive into the card. Looking at the back of the card is often the best way to determine whether or not the card's authentic or not. If you go back to that blowout cards forum thread, you can see that not only we're dealing with fakes, but backdoor. Now, backdoor a lot of times would mean that the card came from the factory and it was actually legitimately printed, but then someone later on added a serial number because it was a backdoor copy, meaning it came out the back door without actually being stamped and put into packs. I want to show you this one from Burbank Sports Cards really quick because this is an authentic copy that was graded by PSA. You can see that is 39 out of 50. So here's the two cards we're going to be looking at. I want to show you this video real quick, and this is basically going to be both cards flashing back and forth. I want you to see if you can notice any differences, and you can always rewind to this portion of the video if you want to see if you can pick out some more differences. But here's the first thing that we're going to notice on this card itself, and this is again the fake card here, number 33 out of 50. If I do zoom in, I can see that here's the serial number, and I can see that of 50. And so this was consistent among these cards, that of 50. They would add the actual serial number, so you can see sometimes the fonts aren't exactly the same for the actual serial number, the 033 or 33050. Now, I'm pointing out specifically the gap between the 5 and the 0 here. But in general, if these cards were backdoored, a lot of times they will add this and it'll look a little bit different. Sometimes I've even seen these where the of 50 is already there and then somebody's added a serial number. Those are even harder to find. But if we look at the legit copy here, we can come over and see that the of 50 is significantly less of a gap here on the legit copy. And I just wanted to show you as well, this is a copy I have of Bobby Jackson from the same set. And we can see again the of 50, there is very little gap between the 5 and the 0. So that's essentially one way you could determine if a serial number is fake. There's other ways to do it too. It gets a little bit difficult when you don't have the same numbers to look at and compare side by side. But this Karl Malone, unfortunately, is not just a backdoor copy where a serial number is added. This actually is completely fake. So I'm going to show you here, and we're going to look at the most obvious way to tell that this particular card is fake, and that's the logo here. So again, we're looking at 33 out of 50. This is the Probstein listed one. And take a look at the logo here, okay? Now I want to go to the real copy, and I want you to take a look at that logo. Are you noticing the difference here? Take a look specifically at the outline of Jazz, okay? So yeah, we can see that in the 33 out of 50, you see that outline, that white outline around Jazz, is actually extremely white, where in the legit copy you can see a slight outline near the bottom of the Jazz lettering, but not in the top. So that's one of the more obvious differences between the two cards. So if you go back to where I was going back and forth between the two earlier in this video, you're going to notice that right away if you look at it. Another difference here is in the actual lettering of Team Skybox here, and I want you to look specifically at the E and the K below it. And then we're going to move over to the legit copy here and look again at that E and that K. We'll take a look again. This is the fake copy. Are you seeing the difference here? And then the real copy. And I want to go back and just show you on my copy as well. You can see that that looks more like the Burbank 39 out of 50 card that we were just looking at. So bottom line here, guys, that this is pretty hard to determine, right? If you have a question on a card, I would absolutely suggest going over to the Blowout forums and taking a look at the rolling thread for 90s fakes and backdoors cards, especially, basketball cards here. This one in the basketball section. You could go to the other forums as well and you'll find the threads there. The unfortunate part about this is these scammers, they're sitting here and building these cards from the ground up. It's pretty scary. If we go back through the thread here, and I want to show you this Tim Duncan, this was actually graded by PSA. It is past grading. So you can't even trust grading, and that's the sad part about it. And these guys are getting better all the time. There's a lot more details that I didn't specifically point out. You can go back in the video and look. There's always going to be a little bit of differences. So we're going to look at this post from Roger Maris here where somebody asked, how can we identify these? And this doesn't give away everything. It's hard to really want to give away everything so that the guys can get better at faking these. But he's basically saying here that the cards that originally came from the printing plate, it would be really hard to spot those. So you'd have to spot something like the serial number being off. But the ones that were built from the ground up, they're going to have a little bit of different elements to them. Now we can assume that fonts have been around forever. These cards are coming out in the mid to late 90s, right? So those fonts have been around forever. People can find those fonts. They can actually find these parallel designs too. This is nothing new. These parallel designs have been around for ages as well. So they can fake that portion of it, but when they're rebuilding the card, there's going to be those small differences like what we found, right? So foil patterns, you can identify. Those are going to be a lot harder to do unless you're doing it in person. But the fonts, right, the graphic elements right here, like he's talking about, logo fonts, those are made from scratch. Those are what we can see and observe. Now again, I sat here and took a very long time showing you that Karl Malone, and I had to do kind of that video to even recognize the differences. So if you have a question about it, please go to this forum and post it, because as you can see, look at the number of cards here that are being faked, like big Kobe Bryant cards, like rookie cards. Here's the Skybox Thunder card that was faked. Here's one of his rookie Ultra Platinum medallion cards. It's very time consuming to figure this stuff out on your own. I would highly suggest asking the experts over here. You can find me on Instagram, mindcycle_cards, on Mindcycle on Blowout cards as well. If you want me to pass along, an auction to throw up in this thread, if you're not a member, I would be happy to do it. But just look out for yourselves out there, and always be aware that as card prices go up, there's going to be more incentive for these guys to fake these cards and try to deceive us. So even if something's graded, don't automatically assume that it's real. Get a second opinion. That's the way you should do anything in life. If you're going to be paying a lot for something, get a second opinion. Just make sure to have yourself covered. And stay safe out there, guys. Thanks for listening to this, and we'll catch you on the next one.